little bit more on Remembrance Day, and indeed the role of the royals within that, because Princess Catherine, the Princess of Wales, Princess Kate, some people call her, she has made her first appearance, was actually last night at the Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall. Delighted Caroline Aston is joining me now. She's a royal commentator, and Ricky Phillips is on the line too. He's a military historian. We'll talk a little bit about the significance of today. Caroline, you're very welcome to the programme. Perhaps you could just tell me your joy, as I'm sure many other people have shared as well, to see Princess Catherine part of this very, very important ceremony. We haven't seen the Queen. Camilla is unwell at the moment. The Duke of Kent, of course, very elderly. He sent a military representative to lay his wreath. But great to see Princess Catherine back on the balcony and taking part in this very important event.
Yes, indeed. Two high-profile royal events coming back to back. A welcome return for her, looking, as ever, so elegant up there on the balcony overseeing the parade. But, of course, what a momentous occasion last night was, I have to say. I thought the stunning choreography, the music, and that marvellous moment when those fast-dwindling number of survivors of the Second World War stood centre stage and were applauded to the echo. Not a dry eye in the house there. And Remembrance yesterday is about remembering everybody, civilian, military, any serviceman, any person whose life has been impacted by war, their health, mental or physical, and the ultimate sacrifice, the giving of life. I thought it was all extremely well done. And every year, that long crocodile of ex-servicemen and their descendants grows longer, not shorter. We will remember them.
And it's very interesting as well, Caroline, to remember that the royals themselves have given so much military service over the years.
Indeed, and of course the King takes his role as the head of the armed forces extremely seriously. You'll remember that marvellous moment after the coronation when representatives of all the services were lined up in the grounds at Buckingham Palace and gave 3 rousing cheers to the new monarch. Yes, it's a long and honourable association, and some of the stories of the past service, of past battles fought by our services, are really a great star on the banner of honour, in my opinion.
Let's bring Ricky Phillips in. He's a military historian. There is so much that's current, so much about the past, about today's ceremony, and it does change a little bit. It is a sort of almost iterative process, Ricky. There are different people involved, and as Caroline correctly says as well, so many and an increasing number of veterans coming to London, coming to the central one, as they will be doing right across the country, right across the United Kingdom and beyond, to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice and those who are living with the mental and physical scars today.
Absolutely. And I should say good afternoon. And great
good
to
afternoon.
Talk as well.
Good to talk to you, Ricky.
We'll start with the pleasantries.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame I was going to join you by link, but the technology failed us. But I'm joining
Don't
you.
worry, we've got you and we're listening to you and we're interested in what you have to say.
Well, I'm joining you here from a very, very small, tiny Fife village by the name of Kennaway, a kind of village most people might forget, and yet I'm in a beautiful garden of remembrance here, and St Kenneth's Parish Church, which I'm looking at here, has a memorial to 40 of the local men who gave their lives in the Great War and in the Second World War, and also another 3 who gave their lives in wars such as Malaya, which, of course, a lot of people perhaps overlooked it. You know, we tend to think of Remembrance Day as being the Great War and the Second World War, but, of course, people are still giving their lives today, and I mean quite literally.
Ricky, tell you what, Ricky, let's just take a couple of minutes and tell me about Malaya. What happened there, to your knowledge? You're a military historian, because that is one of the conflicts, one of the wars that I can honestly say I know very, very little about. Let's educate ourselves today. Let's remember not just World War I, World War II, but all the conflicts. Tell us a bit about Malaya.
Well, when you say Malaya, I mean, there was a lot of things going on in the dismantling of the old British Empire, yes, and what have you. And when we did that, a lot of people, you cannot just remove a power base. You know, what you will do is someone else will absorb that power base or try to for their own ends or what have you. And, of course, people have different opinions. Now, freely admitting that Malaya is not my my personal sort of genre.
Have I put you on the spot, Ricky? Apologies for that.
Slightly. Somewhat, you know, I can tell you that my own, I mean, in my own family, I had two members of my family fought in the Great War, one on the Western Front in all of the major battles. Another one fought at Gallipoli. During the Second World War, my great-uncle fought in the Royal Navy. In fact, he was on a destroyer, HMS Janus, which was sunk by a Fritz X guided bomb, kind of like the first ever guided missile, if you will. Only a third of the crew came off. Fortunately, he was one of them. My grandfather fought in Korea. He also fought in the Suez Crisis. And there are people, I've got so many friends, of course, people who know my name, know a lot of my work on the Falklands War in particular. I was very encouraged, in fact, to see my good friend Richard Hislop laying the wreath on behalf of the Falklands government as well this morning.
We actually had Simon Weston on the programme a couple of weeks ago, the hero of the Falklands, Ricky, and it does, even just talking to him about a number of different issues, reminds us, of course, that there are so many veterans alive and well, perhaps not entirely physically well, perhaps not entirely mentally well, but nonetheless living in our society today. And it's not just about the history, it's about the present as well, and how we treat those veterans, isn't it, Ricky?
Very much so. I mean, we're not looking back. This is the thing. You do look back, but also to this very day, there are British servicemen and women who are serving, for whom today is a very, very poignant and important day. And earlier on the show, talking about, war is taking lives. It's not it's not giving life. It's not, is it a sacrifice for nothing? And again, you come back to the concepts of a word we use very often is freedom. And we bandy this word around quite a lot, this word freedom. And yet freedom is the most important thing to fight for. And most of us in this country are very fortunate not to have had our freedoms curtailed. But then if you look at many, many friends of mine from the Falkland Islands and many of the people who went to liberate them from Argentina in 1982, even then, and the Falkland Islands War is well within most people's living memory, even then, we come and we realise those are people in the Falkland Islands who had their freedom taken away, for whom freedom is not just a word.
And we had to, I say we, I wasn't alive at the time, but certainly the UK had to fight for that freedom in living memory. That's happened in Afghanistan, that's happened in Iraq, in various places. Caroline, all of this will be looming large in the royal minds today, of course, as they commemorate what has been happening in London and indeed elsewhere as well.
Yes, hugely emotional. Lives have been lost in the royal family over the centuries, of course, in the course of their military service. But of course, I think for all of us, the re-emergence, going back to what we were talking about, of the Princess of Wales is uplifting. And I thought she looked visibly moved at points when the cameras were upon her, who could not have failed to be. And of course, the absence today of Queen Camilla, who is 77, due to this chest infection. She wasn't at the Festival of Remembrance. She isn't there. Of course, her wreath was laid on her behalf by her equerry this morning. We'll be wishing her well. But have no mistake, there's been a lot of talk in the paper today. The Daily Mail has published a piece about no sign of Harry and Meghan at the Festival of Remembrance. But of course, why would there be? They left this country, their last appearance at this festival, which is a national event fronted by the monarch and the royal family. They left the royal family as senior working members and live in America. That isn't to say they won't have their own private thoughts today, have released a video about one of their causes to do with online violence towards young people wearing matching power blazers and red poppy pins. But please don't think they were snubbed or not invited. It wouldn't even be on the cards at all.
They have been before, though, Caroline, haven't they?
Oh, they have. But what I would say here is this is an official national event that the royal family turn out for. And there was a wonderful piece saying last time they were present, they were in the cheap seats at the back. Well, of course, the seating, royal seating, is based on precedence and protocol. I know some people don't understand this, but that's the way the royal etiquette cookie crumbles. Interesting stuff. And I have to say this. There was one piece of coverage today that really miffed me not a lot, as it were. In the Daily Mail, there was a piece saying a public, how shall I put it, public display of affection, you know, that the Prince and Princess of Wales couldn't keep their hands off each other. All he'd done was slip an arm round his wife's waist, a protective arm. Well, I thought that was quite symbolic of all the people who never felt the arm of a loved one come back from the war. Maybe that was quite appropriate, but I didn't like calling it not able to keep their hands off themselves, because to me that puts a note into the whole proceedings that's really a little bit tasteless.
Yeah, I think a number of people will agree with you. They've celebrated their 13th wedding anniversary. There are many people who've been married for 13 years or longer, or perhaps even shorter, who wouldn't mind having an arm put round them, and it shows that they have a huge degree of affection for one another. And
Precisely.
Yeah,
Precisely.
no problem with that whatsoever. Caroline, thank you very much indeed for your analysis there. It's Caroline Aston, royal commentator.